Elisha and the widow's oil, a miracle of endless oil. In a time long ago, in a quiet land nestled between ancient hills and winding rivers, there lived a woman of gentle heart and simple faith. She was a widow, her husband now gone, his voice no longer filling the corners of their small home. He had been a good man, a devoted follower of the prophet Elisha, someone who had loved God with everything he had. But now he was gone, and she was left behind with 2 young sons and a weight upon her shoulders that grew heavier with each passing day. The debts her husband had left were not born of foolishness. They were the quiet accumulation of a life simply lived, a life that had run out of time. And now, the creditor had come to her door with a cold and terrible warning. If she could not pay what was owed, he would take her 2 sons away as servants. Just like that, the last 2 lights of her world would be extinguished. She sat with that fear for a while, the way we all sit with our fears in the quiet hours, turning them over, finding no good answer, feeling the darkness press in close. But then something stirred within her. A memory. A name. Elisha. Her husband had walked beside this prophet, had believed in the God who spoke through him. And so, with trembling steps and a heart full of desperate hope, the widow went to find Elisha. When she reached him, the words tumbled out of her, the debt, the creditor, her sons, the time running out. She didn't dress it up or make it sound smaller than it was. She simply told the whole truth of her life, laid bare before this man of God. And Elisha listened, the way the truly wise always do, without rushing her, without offering empty reassurance. When she had finished, he asked her one quiet and simple question. "What do you have in your house?" She paused. She looked inward, mentally walking through the rooms of her modest home, and she almost smiled at the smallness of the answer. "Nothing," she said softly. "Nothing at all, except a small jar of oil." Just a little jar of oil. The last thing. The almost nothing. And yet Elisha did not look disappointed. He did not look at her with pity or tell her it wasn't enough. Instead, a calm certainty settled over his face, and he gave her the most unusual set of instructions she had ever heard. "Go to your neighbors," he told her. "Ask them for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Ask for as many as you can find. Then go inside your home, close the door behind you and your sons, and begin to pour." She could have questioned it. A little jar of oil does not fill many jars. That is simply the way of things. But something in Elisha's quiet steadiness made her simply go. She went from neighbor to neighbor in the gentle hush of the afternoon, knocking on doors, asking with humility, "Do you have an empty jar I might borrow? Or 2? Perhaps more." And the neighbors, moved by something they could not quite name, gave what they had. Jar after jar was carried back to her home, tucked under arms, balanced carefully, stacked against the walls. When the last jar had been gathered, the widow stepped inside and closed the door. The world outside went quiet. It was just her and her 2 sons, and a room full of empty vessels, and one small jar of oil that caught the last of the afternoon light and gleamed like something precious. She picked up the little jar. She tilted it toward the first empty vessel, and the oil began to flow. Softly, steadily, the warm golden oil poured from the small jar into the first large one, filling it slowly, the way water fills a riverbed after long rain, with patience and inevitability. When that jar was full, she called to her son, "Bring me another." He brought another. She poured. It filled. "Bring me another." He brought another. She poured. It filled. The oil did not slow. It did not sputter. It did not remind her of its limits. It simply kept coming, warm and golden and quietly miraculous, as though it had always been there, waiting for this very moment to be known. Jar after jar was carried over, held steady, and filled to the brim. The small room glowed with the scent of it. Her sons moved in near silence, their eyes wide, understanding without words that something holy was happening behind that closed door. Something larger than debt, larger than fear, larger than a creditor's cold arithmetic, was present with them. And then her son reached for another jar, and his hands found only air. "There are no more jars," he said softly. And just like that, the oil stopped. Not with a sputter or a sigh. It simply rested. Its work was done. The widow stood surrounded by jar after jar of full, gleaming oil, more than she had imagined, more than enough. She stood very still for a long moment, the empty little jar loose in her hands, and felt the specific relief that comes not just from a problem being solved, but from being seen, from being gently cared for by something greater than herself. She went back to Elisha and told him everything that had happened. And he smiled, the quiet smile of a man who already knew the ending. He told her simply, "Go and sell the oil. Pay your debts. And then you and your sons, live on the rest." And she did. The creditor was paid. The threat passed like a cloud moving on. Her sons stayed home, safe and warm and close. And the widow, who had come to Elisha with almost nothing but a small jar and a great deal of fear, went home with more than enough. As you let your eyes grow heavy now, and the day releases its hold on you, carry this with you into sleep, that sometimes the miracle is already in your hands. It may look like almost nothing. It may look like the last small thing. But offered with faith, poured out with trust, it is enough to fill every empty place. Rest now. You are held. You are cared for. And that is more than enough.